Hi, this is Growing My B2B Brand, where we discuss ways companies can grow to the next level and achieve their goals. We'll look at improvements that are immediately actionable. Let's get started. So today our guest is Ran Mullins from Relequint, and we're going to talk about some of the cool things that his company is doing, as well as some of the ideas he has around the framework of inbound and some of the ways we're looking at things like, everything from account-based marketing to, the way we look at, MQLs, which is something that's a hot topic right now. So Ran, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. So I'm really interested in talking about Relequint and your growth framework. You've really done a lot recently with your brand. And so I'd love to know a little bit more about what you're doing and kind of your philosophy in general around inbound marketing, because I know that that's something that you really focus on.
Yeah, so actually my background is in full service agency and really working a lot with brands, both B2B and B2C. But when I started Relequint, I decided to focus on B2B. In 2012, it was really my first foray with HubSpot, and really understanding that you could now track all the behaviors that customers and prospects were exhibiting with the brands was huge to me. It was turning marketing into a science where it had been much more of an art prior to that in my mind. And so as I delved deeper into HubSpot and inbound marketing and really following what Brian Halligan and Dharmesh Shah were doing, I saw the way that we could create a formula for it and really begin to understand what works and what doesn't, and begin to create, using their automation, repeat behaviors for the prospects that you really want. And to your point around MQLs versus what I call SQLs, or the sales qualified leads, and then getting to the ready to buy prospects. Really, MQLs are marketing qualified leads. So they're responding to a message. And so with the MQLs, they are hearing what we're putting out there and coming in, but that doesn't mean that they're qualified. And so the thing about the sales qualified leads is it's getting beyond just a marketing qualified lead and really understanding that they are the right fit as a prospect. And that from a sales qualified lead perspective, inbound is great for that, because as you provide really good content at the middle of the funnel, then you can trade that really valuable content for more information. And so you can find out not only that you're talking to the decision maker, or that you're talking with a company of the right revenue size, but also, are they going to be buying in the near future? How many units maybe they're going to be buying? What size of contract are they looking for? And even find out what they're comparing you to in terms of solution. So those are all really great sales qualifying lead opportunities in inbound. In terms of inbound, the way that Relequint really looks at this is starting with the traffic, making sure you're getting the right traffic. We often tell clients we may actually reduce the total amount of traffic that you're getting, but it's going to be highly effective traffic. So instead of getting 100 out of 1,000 people, we'd rather get 300 out of 400 people, being the right people. So that's very important. Moving the traffic into leads, and again, qualifying that they are the right leads, is very important. So as we convert that traffic, it usually takes 3 to 4 months for inbound content to really get indexed and start to show a hockey stick in terms of that traffic. And if you're not driving additional traffic in from advertising at the same time, so that's more organic. But at usually 4 to 6 months is where you really start to see the conversion happening, and you're starting to see prospects completing forms, downloading material, and you're able to really determine if they're the right people. And then months 6 to 9 are typically where proposals are coming through. And so you're actually, with those correct SQLs, you're actually able to start to convert them into an opportunity, into a contract. And so for us on our annual retainers, around month 9, as we're going into fourth quarter, we like to look at renewals, because we're starting to do work on the first quarter of the next year. And we like to prove ROI by month 9. And, that really comparing what has been spent with the amount of new opportunities that have been generated by the effort is very important.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'd like to key in on one of the things that you said that really resonated with me is that, as we're focusing on prospects, our job in a lot of ways is to, instead of bringing in tons and tons of leads, 10,000 leads or more, really it is honing that down and finding the right people. And I actually was talking to a client about this yesterday. And, really it can be scary for companies to go from having this high volume of leads to, having a smaller volume, but they really are more qualified. And I think that, this kind of relates to the trend of account-based marketing in a lot of ways that we're, coming into, that we're finding those right customers and really narrowing that down. And again, that can be scary for our customers. And so, I'm interested in how are you using account-based marketing within the HubSpot, ecosphere?
Yeah, so really the difference, I was explaining this to a friend recently about the difference between inbound and ABM. And really it's the personalization and the focus. Whereas inbound content may draw in really good traffic, it's still organic traffic. With ABM, with account-based marketing, you're choosing the accounts that you want, and then you're personalizing the content to them. So in terms of the use of your marketing automation platform, it's really just that. You're using it, instead of using it as an inbound platform, you're using it as automation for your account-based approach. And so with those very targeted accounts, and ideally the individuals with the titles that you're after, that you're going after, you can automate a number of things on the back end in regards to lead nurturing email campaigns, and as well as the landing pages, as well as the tracking, as well as the LinkedIn messaging you can track as well. And that's where a lot of what we do with ABM happens, is in that personalized direct messaging, and integrating that with the CRM of HubSpot, and then using that, still using HubSpot for the sales enablement side, and automating as many of those transitions from one step to another in the sales process.
Yeah, and I think that one of the mistakes that some customers have, or other people who are advising might have, is the idea that you have to choose one or the other, that you have to choose inbound or ABM. And I don't really think that's the case. I think that people definitely have a spot for inbound marketing, as well as they can focus on account-based marketing. And so, one of the things I talked about is, as companies mature, the way that they use products and solutions really changes. And so I'm curious, you have a really robust framework for people as they're going through account-based marketing. And obviously, as you just described, inbound marketing. And then as you just described, you have this assistance for them with account-based marketing. What are you seeing with clients that, maybe they've gone on multiple years now of HubSpot, maybe they've worked with you for multiple years. What are you seeing in clients that have matured?
So you made a great point there in regards to, it's not really either or, inbound or account-based marketing. And what we've seen is, for those clients that we've built up a good amount of content, doing at least 2 blogs per week, and doing some long form white paper guide or maybe a series of tip sheets, etc. That content builds up and it continues to work for them, and we will make updates to that, but we might dial back the frequency of the blogs once the content has been built up around particular topics. And then what we do is we start to increase the ABM, or the personalization, focused on very refined lists that the client has decided, because oftentimes when they start with us, they don't have a lot of focus, and we have to bring that to them. A lot of times they want to focus on 5, 6, 7 personas, and it really works best if you focus your inbound efforts on a single persona, and you're going to see better results in your rankings, in search, etc., from that focus. So the more content you create consistently around a particular pain point for a persona, the faster you're going to get results. The more fragmented you are trying to cover all of the personas, the more fragmented the content, then the slower those rankings are going to increase in regards to search. So, but I just really think that the combination ends up resulting in the inbound continues, and it really serves as a thought leadership component. And we've got some clients that I call it vanity, because they get upset that their competition has more followers than them on LinkedIn, or their social media isn't getting enough. And to me, that is more about ego than it is about results. And so that's what they can see, though, for the most part. The CEOs and the CMOs, that's what they're looking at. So I try and get them back into the back end of HubSpot or Pardot, and let's look at the tracking. Let's look at what's actually happening. Look at how our conversions have gone up. Look at, and look at how many deals you've closed this quarter versus last quarter. What effect is additional followers on LinkedIn necessarily going to do? If it's about thought leadership, then absolutely, let's do a thought leadership campaign and make sure that you're positioned exactly as you want to be and attract as many additional followers as possible. But if it's about sales, that's a different tactic and story.
Yeah, I think it's part of the discussion too about the whole idea, again, going back to account-based marketing, with the ideal customer profile, that ICP as they call it. It's really then focusing on a really focused view of who you're targeting. And so one of the things I know that you've been working on is campaigns that are really personalized, and finding out how to reach them, where to reach them. And so I'd be interested in learning a little bit more about how you're really personalizing those campaigns.
Yeah, so in regards to the ideal customer profile, we do cover all of the general stuff that a buyer persona might have in it. But in addition, we really look at the background of the person. We look at how they arrived in their position, what other positions they held prior to that position. We try and get into their everyday world. So what are all of the pain points that many of them may not have to do with what our client is offering, but we want to know them on that deep level so that we can not only refer to those things that are very important to them, but also to anticipate what other needs that they may have. And the more that they understand that our client gets them on that level, almost it starts to feel like an intuitive level. That familiarity goes up, the trust goes up, the confidence goes up. And when the personalization is done right, and you're talking about what they know are the pain points in the industry, and then maybe even specific to their company, because most of that information you have access to. You can see who they're working with. You can see what's going on with their client base. And referring to those things in communications is going to feel more like a real dialogue, even though there's a lot of automation behind it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm thinking, as you're going through this, there's a lot of content that has to be created here. And, as you're working on writing all of this content, how do you approach that in terms of, you have content for your customers, that you're writing, and what else, can you tell me a little bit more, I guess, about the kinds of content you're creating, and who are you creating it for?
Yeah, so our director of content strategy is excellent, and she really gets deep into the weeds on each client and understanding their business and understanding those ideal customer profiles. And then she is the one that is creating the overall content plan, working with our digital marketing consultants that are on each client. And so there's a strategy that's formed between the two of them that's then presented to the client. And the overarching content plan really does have the direction that we're going. And so we try and lead it the way that a real relationship may develop, where you don't go in and immediately make an ask to someone. You might meet them, you share names, you share what you do, you share the company, all of those little intro things, there's a cadence to it. And really mapping out the content plan based upon that cadence and getting deeper as the relationship develops is really what matters. It's no different than any other relationship. You have to build that bridge of trust and confidence before they're going to open up and be responsive to what you're doing.
Yeah, so we've covered so much already. I'm really curious, if you can tell us more about, what the future holds for Relequint, and what you're doing to build your own thought leadership as you're, really making changes within the industry. And so I'm curious kind of where you're headed.
Yeah, it's funny. So many of the things that we're doing sometimes feel like marketing 101 to me. But when I look out at the industry, a lot of people don't have the discipline to actually do the things that we know work. And so what we've done is developed a growth catalyst framework. And within that framework, we make sure that the 101 things are, and that there's a discipline around completing those on a regular basis. A lot of people try the new thing and forget about what was working, and they may see the results drop, and we have seen that many times. But that regular, frequent, it's almost like an army marching forward and not stopping kind of thing. We create all of the elements and we just keep doing it, because as our prospects move through the funnel, we want to make sure that we have the right content at the top of the funnel, the right content at the middle of the funnel, and the right content at the bottom of the funnel, so that as they pass through, we don't stop doing the things that we're drawing them in at the top of the funnel to begin with. We continue those, and we update those, and we refine those. And every client that makes it all the way through and is a great match, we're able to look at their entire journey and map that back and improve upon the journey for the next client. And so we're not only copying the behaviors of what they were doing, we're actually creating a more streamlined approach to that. And that's really what the Growth Catalyst framework does, is we put the initial building blocks in place, and then we customize per client and per prospect as they come through. And we'll often drop content that's already been created, and the client paid for it, but it's bringing the wrong prospects through. So we will get rid of that and do more content that we know has worked in the past, and we can see the behaviors. And we track everything, the 800 numbers, the chats, everything, and we record everything. And actually, I made a point to a client this morning that those 800 number calls are often really important to record, because you're going to learn language from that prospect and the way that they actually talk about the thing that you have some fancy name for. And the words that they use for it are their industry terms. It's the way that they talk to their colleagues about it. It's the way they friends in other companies about it. And that is the language that you want to start working into all of your campaigns, both the inbound and the ABM. So you want to work into, you want to think about when they sit at Google trying to solve a problem, what is the language they're typing in? Because they may not be using that very corporate speak industry term. They may be using a very colloquial term when they're typing it in. And the more you can know about that, the more you can earn their trust.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm trying to think in terms of, what you were just saying, how that makes a difference for the companies. And here's a cat. Everybody, welcome to Mr. Finn. He has arrived in the podcast. So he says hello, and now he's going to go away. But that's the great thing about growing my B2B brand, is that you never know what you're going to see. But anyways, let me ask you one last question, as I've gotten distracted now from my last question. But tell me about Ran Mullins. What's next for you?
Well, certainly building Relequint, we have a lot of goals in regards to our client base. And while we're focused in manufacturing and healthcare and tech companies, we do see that potential broadening, and we've been working with larger and larger clients, really focused on the 50 to 500 million range right now in terms of revenue. They tend to be the size where they welcome outside expertise and the help that it can provide to their internal teams, not just to augment, because a lot of what we do really does take it off of their plates, and we become an extension of their departments. But for myself, I think probably more in terms of the overarching growth consulting and brand consulting work and the thought leadership for Relequint.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you have done a lot of great things, and I think there are a lot of people that could definitely benefit from the things that you've shared and the knowledge that you can bring to their organization. So, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. Again, Ran is with Relequint, and I'm sure that he'd be happy to talk with you further if you're interested in some of the things that he shared today. But Ran, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for the invitation. This was great.
And I want to thank you all for joining us for Growing My B2B Brand. I know you will enjoy our next episode, and where we continue to explore ways that your company can immediately improve. Thank you.